Welcome to another episode of the Sports Sentiment. I am your host, Nick Urias, and we are back once again talking college football. We are 1 week out from week 0 of the college football season, week 1 the following week. We got San Jose State and Central Michigan happening August 29th in San Jose, California. The season opener for San Jose State, the season opener for Central Michigan. So we're here to talk all about that very matchup between the Spartans and the Chippewas. And joining us today to talk that very matchup and give us a little preview on the game, the TV and radio voice for Central Michigan Athletics, and he does broadcasting for the Lansing Lugnuts as well, Adam Jaksa. Adam, thanks for taking some time out of your day for us and ready for college football season, I imagine.
I can't wait, man. It's always crazy because you get done in January with the national championship and you kind of have that, wait, what? We have to wait all the way till August? And then it goes so fast. And here we are, like you said, week 0 is next week. And then we'll be out there in California and get the lock pads and see what it looks like to start 2025.
Yeah, no doubt. And it's very interesting because I feel like Central Michigan is kind of in the same boat in a sense that San Jose State was last year. A whole lot of new players, new coaching staff, just a new regime trying to establish the culture. Central Michigan last year, 4-8 overall, 2-6 in the MAC. You guys had wins over Central Connecticut State, San Diego State, Ball State, and then, of course, your rival Western Michigan. I mean, going back to last year, I know it's a completely different coaching staff and I imagine new schemes across the board, but I mean, just what went wrong for the Chippewas last year? I mean, I think you guys had a revolving door at quarterback all year long. Just I guess what went sideways for that season, and I guess what can you hang your hat on from last year to this year heading into 2025?
Yeah, injuries were a huge part of it and schedule was a huge part of it. So the revolving door was we couldn't keep any quarterback healthy. Joe Labus, who comes in as the starter just by experience and because he was here heading into fall camp, he got hurt halfway through the season against Ohio, and it was early on in that game. And, of course, they went on to win the MAC championship, and Central Michigan lost to them by a couple of points. He had a shoulder injury, had surgery, and was done for the year. Then the next one went out. Then the next one went out. And we got all the way down to Jaden Glasser, who was a true freshman. And he's talented, but he's just brand new. And he was actually the guy that helped us beat Western Michigan. We hadn't beaten our rival at home since 2010 until last year. So they got that done because of him. And then on top of the quarterbacks, same thing with the wide receivers. So many injuries with the wide receivers. You could really point to a bunch of the offense. Just on top of it being a little, I'd say, not as functional as Jim McElwain offenses had been. You go back to 2019 when he took them to the MAC championship game. They were very balanced. 2021, Lou Nichols leads the country in rushing. They were very balanced. But these last 3 years, the offense just didn't have that cohesion. And it was a mix of, I don't know, whether it was the players or maybe schematically, whatever wasn't working. But this last year, there were injuries because Jim McElwain talked about it a lot. He hasn't had many losing seasons in his long career. But then to have them back-to-back, I mean, they were really pushing to have a good season. And they felt good after that first game, at Central Connecticut State, but still they thumped them. And we didn't know what this offense was going to look like. And then week by week, it seems more and more individuals were losing due to injury, and then things kind of spiraled. And again, the conference slate was the hardest in the MAC. I mean, this year they have the 3rd easiest schedule in the MAC. Last year it was the hardest in the MAC. They opened at Toledo, who had been a favorite. They then had to go down to Miami. They hosted Ohio. They played NIU. I mean, all of the teams that were projected to finish in the top half of the league, they were on Central Michigan's schedule. So you couple that with the injuries, and then it was year 6 for that coaching staff. And I'm not saying that they weren't trying, because there was try. They were trying to win games, but sometimes, Nick, you get it. Like, you just need a fresh start. this regime came just a little bit short of getting them a MAC championship, which is the ultimate goal. They nearly won in 19 in that crazy turnaround. They were a botch snap away from being in that game in 2021 against NIU. And then they didn't have good years these last few years. So last year, though, it was hard to judge them because there were so many injuries, and then the schedule was just unrelenting.
Yeah, and now Coach McElwain retires from coaching, and you guys got a new era out there in Mount Pleasant with Matt Drinkall, first-year head coach, has some head coaching experience at the NAIA level, went 42-17 at Kansas Wesleyan, which I think is pretty impressive, because those NAIA schools, it's kind of very much like, I've talked to basketball coaches as well, that it's almost kind of like this, NIL era in a sense, and, trying to navigate that stuff. But impressive track record there. It's a very small sample size. This is an FBS gig in the MAC, but Coach Matt Drinkall, offensive line coach at Army. He had the best offensive line in America, won the Joe Moore Award last year with Army. But just what have you seen here from Coach Drinkall? I imagine a lot of excitement out there in Mount Pleasant, and just what's the overall vibe? Because the first year is always the most difficult, right? Because you're trying to bring in coordinators, trying to set a culture, and most importantly, trying to get your players to buy in, right?
Yeah, definitely. You nailed it. I mean, you said it. Like, you guys went through this last year with a first-year head coach. You've seen it. It's a lot to get a football program humming in the right direction. Whether, in San Jose State's case, they had been rolling and now you got to hand it off to somebody else because somebody left for a better job. In this case, maybe not the best handoff in terms of win-loss, but in terms of guys that are really good individuals, work hard, talent. Like, there's a lot that was already here. And Coach Drinkall has mentioned that from the transition from Coach Mack's staff now to his staff. In terms of Drinkall, people are jumping excited for this guy. I mean, he has done an incredible job coming in here in December. He's so big on just building up the spot that he is at and the individuals, making sure they are enjoying themselves. They are happy about where they are at. So he's very active on social media and the Central Michigan football accounts on Instagram, on Twitter, on TikTok. Like, those have all amped up and there's content being pushed out every day. Not like a, hey, look at us, we need to show ourselves, but also kind of a, hey, look at us, look what we have here. We've got this great community in Mount Pleasant. And Nick, for people like I'm sure that are watching or listening that haven't been to Michigan, us Michiganders, we like to do this like hand thing to show you where we're at. And we literally are right up in the middle between the Lower Peninsula and Grand Rapids, Detroit, Lansing, and everything that's kind of buzzing. And then you start to go north to go see the scenic stuff. And the UP, we're basically like the gateway between those two. So there's not a lot going on up here, which is cool because we kind of have our own spot up here. But we need to make sure that we promote ourselves and just show, like, what is Central Michigan all about? And I feel like Coach Drinkall, of having that young energy of coming in and being a new head coach and leading this program and seeing all the great history that has come before him and seeing the great facilities that we have, a brand new north end zone that his coaching staff is in, biggest video board in the MAC, the biggest on-campus stadium in the MAC. Like, there's a lot up here that screams Central Michigan historic football program. A ton of NFL guys that have made it and had success coming from Mount Pleasant and going to the league. So he is really focused on, we've got to tell our story and make sure people are excited about us. And he's done that. And the community has gotten behind him, even in this short 6-7 month stretch. The players have really started to bond with him and his staff because he's brought in a bunch of individuals that are tireless workers. They keep the egos on check, and they just want to come in, work hard, and win. It's a lot of guys that are getting this opportunity to be a defensive coordinator for the first time, or maybe work at a caliber school of Central Michigan for the first time. Matt Drinkall is a head coach at a D1 university for the first time. So you bring in that newness of individuals that are trying to ascend up in their career, and they look and they go, oh my gosh, this is amazing what Central Michigan has to offer. They have kind of those big eyes, right? Mm-hmm. He and his staff have done a great job of making sure the players know, like, look at what is around you. Look at what you have. Let's build our culture around just being grateful for everything that we have, because Central Michigan has so much to offer. And they've taken that mindset, and it just seems like a complete flip from spring ball for the guys that have been here, and then the new recruits that have just come in as they start fall camp. Like, there is a ton of excitement and buzz on that aspect, but also in the impact of, like, the coaching staff being very active on social media, engaging with fans, and making sure there is that welcoming connection of, if you've played here or gone to school here, or you're just a fan of Central Michigan football or Central Michigan athletics or the university, CMU football wants to be connected with you. They don't want to be on this island like, hey, we are CMU football, you are that. They want to be together, and they want everybody with them, because he understands, Coach Drinkall, that it doesn't just take the guys in that football building. It takes everybody on campus and everybody that loves and is passionate about this program to help them hopefully get this thing turned around as quick as possible.
Yeah, no doubt. The players buying in, but also, like you said, just the fan base and the community, ultimately, so you guys have yourself a rambunctious environment out there in Mount Pleasant. Going back to your point on just, the hand that you brought up, just to kind of showcase, hey, where is Central Michigan on the map? I mean, I feel like that's kind of important given all the directional Michigan schools that are in your conference, and, obviously the University of Michigan and so many universities out there at the Division I level. I feel that's pretty important. But, hey, San Jose State, like we said, was in the same spot last year with Coach Ken Niumatalolo. And, he kind of – the NIL wasn't great at San Jose State. It's still a work in progress. And what's been, I guess, the calling card to kind of just get recruits is we're going to create this family-oriented culture. And, that's what Coach Ken's brought to San Jose. The money bags might not be there, for, the high-prize athletes. But he's always preached about it. And now he's getting, Big Ten recruits from USC and Washington, because the guys that didn't get to have playing time over there are now coming here, just looking for an opportunity, and they're seeing that when they're going on visits. So everybody's got their own method to their madness. It's just you got to get a little bit more creative in this NIL era, I feel like, and Central's trying to follow that same they're trying to follow that same path in a way. I want to get your perspective on just this offense, because with the new coaching staff, Adam, you're going to get more likely than not new coordinators, which could lead to a change in scheme. As far as the quarterback is concerned, is it Joe Labus? Is there been a quarterback competition? Just given all of the craziness at quarterback last year, where are we at with that? And as far as this scheme is concerned, I think I imagine some people would like to see Central Michigan run the triple option just because of all of his background at Army. But I imagine with the OC Jim Chapin coming from Eastern Washington, that the offense is going to revolve a little bit more around his play style.
Yeah, I mean, it's a little Coach Drinkall based, but it's Coach Chapin. It's all of the offensive staff members that they have. He came out and said, Coach Drinkall, in his presser back in December, we're not running the triple option here at Central Michigan. You brought it up. Kansas Wesleyan is more of what they want to do, which is the power spread. So that's what he talked about. And they'll be in multiple formations and they'll do different things. But at the end of the day, they want to be able to spread you out and throw and run the football. But, Nick, I don't know what the weather looks like out there in the Mountain West in November. I'm sure it's a little bit more glamorous than it is here in the Midwest. But like up here in October, November, it's 20, 30 degrees. It's sleeting. It's snowing. It is windy. I swear, every MAC venue has the most wind-oriented location you could ever imagine. So, like, running the football is super important. When you want to run the clock down and it's November, it's cold, and you want to keep the football, and the elements say there's 30-mile-an-hour wind gusts, I wouldn't pass. You got to be able to line up and attack and win the line of scrimmage. So they're going to spread you out, I think. And again, guys, I don't know what we're going to see week one. This is all brand new, but going off what they're saying, power spread, but we want to be able to win the point of attack on both offense and defense. So that's what you can expect there. In terms of the quarterback position, it is a wide open competition. I said it, Joe Labus is the guy, but that is strictly based on his experience and being the starter at the beginning of last season. They've got Jaden Glasser, who they believe is extremely talented. And then they brought in a couple of transfers as well that are dual threat guys, both with experience. One at the JUCO level, one from Northern Arizona. And both those guys have looked really good from the little bits and pieces that I've seen in fall camp and going back to spring. And I know the coaching staff is very excited. So I think there could be multiple quarterbacks that take snaps. Certainly you give the nod to Joe Labus because he enters as being that quote-unquote one, but it's a wide-open competition, and we'll see how it shakes out here once we get rolling.
Yeah, as far as your defense is concerned, like the overall numbers, were actually pretty solid, like 59th in total defense from last year. Now, that could change just because you bring in a new DC, Sean Cronin. He was an Army guy. He was the D-line coach out there, but a lot more continuity on this side of the ball. You guys returned 4 of your 5 top tacklers. I think Jordan Kwiatkowski with the 96 total tackles last year. He comes back at the linebacker position. A little bit more, it's a change in scheme, I imagine, but still, this side of the ball seems to be a little bit more intact. Can this unit maybe be a little bit ahead of things compared to the offense in week one, just given the amount of changes around the offense compared to the defense?
Yeah, I think you nailed it. That's the part that they're going to hope to, I would imagine, rely upon in the early weeks as you're going through a full transition. And again, it's going to look different defensively than it did last year, just based on new coaches, new scheme. But there's experience there. And that linebacker room, it's stacked. It's been stacked for like 3 or 4 years. Traditionally, I've been covering and following CMU football going back 15 years now. Every single year, their front seven just is a hammer, and it's hard to run the football against them. And I could see that being a case again this year, just because the linebackers are experienced, and then you've got a couple plugs up front on the defensive line that have been there as well. So I certainly think that the defense is going to need to step up, especially in these earlier games. And trust me, nobody is overlooking San Jose State. Like, that is an absolute brutal game. Travel all the way out there as a brand new team and a brand new program on a Friday night. I'm sure it's going to be blazing hot. It's going to be a raucous atmosphere. And again, it's a program that's picked in the top few in the Mountain West, and they had a great season last year. So that in itself is going to be a difficult game. But Nick, then you got to go to Pitt. Then you got to go to Michigan. And then you get one game at home finally against Wagner before you're off into MAC play. So, like, this non-conference schedule, 3 straight road games, 3 straight good teams, that's a brutal, like, welcoming to try and start over as a program. Now, again, I'm not saying that they can't go out and be competitive, and that won't be an excuse, but it is just like, hey, this fall camp is super important, and this defense may be super important to help keep the offense in the game as they sort of figure things out with what their identity is against all these really tough opponents.
Yeah, I was just about to say, I was gonna get to the schedule just because, I took a look at it and I'm like, man, 3 true road games in different time zones to start out the season, given all the changes that you guys got. I don't even know how many teams even have 3 true road games 3 straight weeks, but the fact that Central Michigan has it 3 straight to start the season in non-conference games, and given the opponents that 3-game stretch provides, I mean, that's got to be one of the toughest starts toughest starts to the schedule out of any college football team this season. Adam, you mentioned the defense and how, just the front seven is just has a really good history of performing well out there in Mount Pleasant. I think one of just the big time matchups to watch is, just the San Jose State backfield going up against that defensive front, because, the numbers were pretty good last year for them. You mentioned that, the returners and those guys might be a little bit of a step ahead compared to the offense, but I mean, San Jose State has made it clear, you go look at their passing numbers last year and, they were off the charts, top 5 in all of the FBS, but 130th in rushing. They've kind of made it a point of emphasis that we do want to be a little bit more balanced. We're going to be pass first, but the rushing numbers, we do want to get better. So I look at a matchup with San Jose State's running back, Floyd Chalk the fourth. Spent some time at Grambling, second year at San Jose State, had himself a really good year given his, carries, the ratio was pretty good for him last year. I think that's going to be a premier matchup in this game because, San Jose State, they might want to look into this game if they do have a cushion with the lead. Hey, maybe we do run the ball and, that could potentially get them out of their element a little bit. So I think that's a premier matchup heading into this game, the ground attack for San Jose State versus that defensive front for Central Michigan.
Yeah, certainly. I would expand that and just say the line of scrimmage. I know that's boring, but especially with CMU and when their program has been elite, it's when they've been able to move people on the line of scrimmage, specifically the offensive line. I mean, CMU is notorious for how many offensive linemen currently are in the NFL from this program and how many have come from this program. But they haven't been able to run the ball in these last few years. So will they be able to run the ball against San Jose State with a first game and a first-year head coach and new program? And then on the flip side, will they be able to get some pressure and be able to stop the run? I think that's absolutely going to be a huge part in who wins this game. What does up front look like for both sides? And for CMU fans looking at it, is this offensive line going to get back to where they have been in the past? Because it's been a few years. And defensively, under Coach Mack and Rob Akey was the longtime DC under Coach McElwain in all 6 seasons. In their first few years, they had one guy that absolutely, anytime a snap was sent back to the quarterback, you could count on that guy to get to the quarterback. They hadn't had that the last couple of years. They've had a couple of guys that have gotten in there a few different times, and Rob Akey was very blitz heavy. So there's TFL numbers that are up. There are sack numbers that are up. But they haven't been able to get that pressure a ton without being able to blitz and bring extra guys. That's another thing with Sean Cronin coming over and this defensive line and this front seven. Will they be able to create pressure and just get into the backfield without having to blitz? Again, I don't know. We'll see what happens.
Yeah, I'm very curious just to see from a San Jose State defense as well. Just because, again, I don't want to speculate here, but I imagine maybe if whatever quarterback Central Michigan does roll out, maybe they might want to set the tone running the ball a little bit. Trey Cornist is a guy that comes from Tulane, was one of the backups over there in New Orleans. Is this guy expected to do some big things in a Central Michigan uniform this season?
Yeah, definitely. There's a 3-headed attack right now that they really liked in spring. And again, they're feeling it out with fall camp, but it was Drake Cornist. Now Reed Biggins was the experienced guy from last year that switched from defensive back. And last year was his first year at running back, albeit he was running behind Marion Lukes and Miles Bailey, but they were injured a lot of the year. So he got some carries. And then Brock Townsend got a few carries. They're really excited about him. I am really excited about him. Those 3 together should be the guys that are going to get the rock first. I would guess it's going to be between Biggins and Cornist, who would touch the football first in the game on Friday night. But they feel good about that group. A couple of big dudes. Cornist is a big guy. Townsend is a big guy, and Biggins can thump too, but he's got probably the best speed of the three without, again, been able to size him up much throughout spring ball and now just a few days into fall camp. But that's your running back trio that they have, and they've got some capable guys behind it. The thing about CMU, like, they've always had talent. I mean, you go to the MAC now, 13 teams. Like, this is by far one of the most successful programs football-wise in this conference. Not close. I mean, you look to Miami, you look at Ohio's recent success. Toledo obviously has been good. NIU. CMU, they haven't won the MAC since 2009, but they have talent every single year. And I feel that that's the case this year, that there's talent. But, Nick, it's one of those things where there's talent, but just guys that haven't had those big moments consistently in years past. Some of them have been on the roster and made plays. Some of them are new or freshmen or younger that haven't really gotten their opportunity. So it's like talented inexperience is what I equate to what Central Michigan looks like to start 2025.
Very interesting. And again, this is how, this is the challenges that you go through, just given all like personnel changes and, new faces, and, you got to figure that all out on the fly in a sense in year one, as far as, especially when you get into the season, you might have a good chance, figuring out in, fall camp, and, you might know going in, but, until you get into the 11 on 11 games and, you're in a true road game, things might get a little bit difficult there, and you all of a sudden your wheels are turning and you're trying to figure it out. I'm a big rivalry game guy. I always, especially, the local ones. Like, I'm so mad that we're not getting like the Civil War, every year in the future. Oregon State, San Jose State and Fresno State is always so significant out here in the West Coast. There's the rivalry games and with all the conference realignment stuff now and all the changes there, that seems to be happening every couple months now. I'm a big rivalry game guy. So, Central Michigan and, Western Michigan, you're the biggest rivalry for you guys, out there in your parts. A rivalry that dates back over 100 years for you being the broadcaster for Central Michigan. Just talk to me, and what does that rivalry really mean to the people of Mount Pleasant out there?
Every damn thing you could imagine, man. Like, that is the most important game on the schedule. I will never give you the coach talk that every game is just as important as the other. No. That is the game every single year, and you feel it down in your core whether you win or you lose that game. And it was, as an alum, just this like disgusting feeling that you had not beaten Western at home since 2010. That's 12, 14, 16, 18, 20, 2022, all losses to that team until last year. It's just like it really is like, you hate to lose that game. You really hate to lose that game because you hate them. They can't stand you. The fans are just crazy. The students are nuts. It's awesome. Like, it is so much fun to have that team that despises you, that university that can't stand you, and you feel the same way about them. But it is gut-wrenching when you lose. So it's super important. It's a great slept-on rivalry because everybody here in the Midwest will lean to Michigan, Ohio State, or specifically in this state, Michigan State. And I don't blame them. Those are great rivalries. But in the MAC, there are a few good ones. And Miami against Ohio, Toledo, Bowling Green, Central Western. To me, those are the three top rivalries in this conference. And the rest of my life, this rivalry, this game will always have my attention. No matter what I'm doing, I feel lucky enough to be able to attend and watch and call these games, but always and forever, I will be paying attention to this game. And that is, that's praise to the universities and the alums and obviously the student athletes and the coaches that have built this hate up, that have built this pride up for both programs. And that game circled for me. I mean, my birthday's in early November, so it's either close or falls right on it. November action is the most important part of the year, right? You're playing midweek every single week, it feels like, and that's when it gets cold, and that's when you figure out who separates and who's going to go to the MAC championship. And that game this year is back on a Saturday, and it's at their place. It is a grueling place to go to. But when you leave that place with a win, it's an extra special feeling. So that rivalry is, to me, one of the most special ones that there is in college football. I'm clearly biased, and Auburn and Alabama and Michigan, Ohio State fans would roll their eyes at that, but that's okay. When you dig in deep in the trenches here as someone that goes to one of these schools and then someone that covers or has been at one of these games, you feel it. And then it's got the trophy now, right? The Victory Cannon Trophy became a thing because there are two cannons that shoot off at both stadiums. And so whoever wins that thing, you are going to watch them streak across either their field or your field and come get that trophy. And that is a core memory that sticks with you, whether you're on the winning side or the losing side. So love this rivalry, and I'm really proud that Central Michigan is a part of it, and even more happy that they won it last year.
Yeah, no doubt. And, San Jose State, I got to give them kudos because, despite Fresno State going to the Pac-12, they're going to still be playing the rivalry game, for years to come. They're going to be playing San Jose State's going to be playing Cal in years down the road, which I love the regionality from the Bay Area standpoint there. Now they're going to be playing San Jose State and Stanford on the schedule for years to come. So I think that's so important just for the sport. For all of these, all these games, there's so much history behind it. And I think you need it in the game. I want to get your perspective, just as a broadcaster, just for you as once when you get into conference play, just your schedule for the midweek action games, because for someone that has the normal Saturday games, I imagine your days of the week are a little bit mixed up there. But I mean, you've done this for several years now. The Tuesday games and the Wednesday games don't startle you a bit now, huh?
Yeah, you said, I mean, you're used to it. I actually will say, too, it's really nice as someone that I'm sure, Nick, you're a college football fan yourself, like to be able to prep and like have the games on Saturday instead of like, when you call a game or you go cover a game, like you are full on pretty immersed in that game. So it's hard to like really follow, like maybe there's screens up in the press box, but you can't really watch. Whereas with the games on Tuesday, Wednesday, like you can do your prep and you can have the games on and you can really like enjoy a college football Saturday. But yeah, it's weird. I know the fans don't like it, but I'll tell you what, like on a Tuesday, Wednesday, when Central Michigan wins, like social media is absolutely buzzing because it is like typically the only game or one of the only games that's on, whether it's another MAC game or I know more and more conferences have seemed to try and fill up every single day now of the week, Monday through Friday with football. But like, I go back to 2021, and again, the rivalry game is going to pull the most eyeballs. But November 3rd, 2021 at Western, like we took 2 punt return back for touchdowns. Same guy does it in Khalil Pimpleton, come from behind at their place, win that game. Like, there has never been a game since I've been here where everybody has been so into what is going on in that game that night between Central and their opponent. So it's tough because I totally understand it from the fans' perspective. But like if your team is rolling and your team is playing like competitive, important football in November, and you're kind of along that ride of like, all right, we've gotten through September. We like our odds. We've stayed healthy. Okay, we got through October, through the conference schedule. Now it's time in November. Can we make that push to get to the MAC championship? If you are in it and your fan base is fully two-pronged strapped into that roller coaster seat and like on that ride with you, those games can be super, super fun. And then again, with it being one of the only games that night, like that game seems like it lives on like the next 2 days or until you finally get to that football Saturday, because crazy stuff always happens in those midweek action games. But yeah, there was a stretch last year in November where I went opening week of basketball. We played Monday against Marquette in Milwaukee. Tuesday, we were at Toledo for football. Wednesday, we were at George Mason for basketball. Thursday, I had a coach's show in Mount Pleasant for football. And then Friday, I had a wrestling meet that I called. So it was like boom, 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 boom. Different sport, different city, different state, different way of travel, flight, transportation on the ground. Like, it was crazy. And I know I'm just speaking on my end. There are a ton of broadcasters that also experience that too. But yeah, November gets hairy.
Life as a broadcaster, ladies and gentlemen. There you have it. Adam, before we get you out of here and sign off here, I just some quick hitters for you. I imagine your favorite MAC road trip is Western Michigan, but is there a road trip that you've done throughout your days of calling games where you're like, wow, that stadium's underrated or that city's very nice?
Yeah, you're talking within the MAC or just any of the?
Yeah, it could be the MAC or just the big picture from games you've called.
Yeah, I mean, I grew up watching Big Ten football, so anytime we go to a Big Ten big venue, like I get those little goosebumps and the hair stands up on my arms. Like I grew up, my dad was a huge Michigan fan, so I just naturally went to Michigan games with him when I was younger, and my sisters and my mom were big Michigan State fans. So I grew up going to Michigan State games. So a couple of years ago, we played at Michigan State. That was incredible. Penn State was a whiteout and a sellout of 100,000 plus a few years ago. And then Michigan this year will be an absolute emotional roller coaster for me. I can't believe that I will be a booth over from the great Frank Beckman, who used to sit there, and then Bob Ufer as well. I mean, just two legends. And then to look down and see the bowl that you grew up going to with 100,000+, and then like the twisting thought of knowing I have absolutely no love for Michigan anymore winning that game. Like I am dialed in and I hope Central Michigan upsets them, but it's just like a weird, like, wait a second here. But everything kind of like coming together fully emotionally from what you remember as a kid and why you got into sports broadcasting, because you love football, you love sports, and being able to go like partake in that like giant event. I mean, Nick, you should see what it's like trying to get into Ann Arbor on game day. And that's a 12 o'clock kick. Like you will sit on the highway, you will sit in the lines, and then trying to get out of there. It's crazy how they pack 110,000 in there. And to be able to go and call that game, like I can't even imagine what that's going to be like.
No doubt. I personally got that stadium on the sports bucket list of mine. That's for sure. Coldest game you've ever called, whether it be in Mount Pleasant, some other MAC venue. Do you remember that on the top of your head?
That's a good question. I will say our TV booth is unforgiving. So that's always, it's one of those wide open booths. So I always feel for the TV individuals that come in. They're like, yeah, we heard coming to Kelly Shorts, it's an open booth. So we were going to have to bring the heaters and the gloves and the pea coats and everything. Wow, this is tough. It'd have to be one of these November games. And I am a wuss when it comes to the cold. Like I don't have much on me. I'm not built like a football player. I never played. So when it gets cold, like I am layered like no other. And I can't use my fingers. I can't use my toes. So any November, and really last year, I think we did pretty well. The last couple of years, we've gotten lucky with the weather. But there's been some chilly nights, whether it's been in Mount Pleasant where the wind whips, and again, any of these MAC venues where the wind gets going and you're like, oh my goodness, how are they playing this? I will say probably the game that stands out, there was a Snow Bowl game in 2022 here at Central Michigan. You should look this up and just go see these pictures. So it was coming down, and it's Central Western, and they have like these mini plows that are like just going across to try and so you can see the yard line. But like the opening kickoff, you couldn't see the numbers for a lot of this game. Like you're just going by the lines and you're broadcasting like, I think that's the 20 and you're trying to like count the lines in your head. Like it was, we went viral on social media because one of the students had built a snowman, like made a face and built a snowman. So it was sitting right next to, I think it was her. She was one of the students here. She had a snowman right next to her, and she was just sitting right next to her like it was her butt. I mean, it was just the weirdest things happen. But like that's the elements. You never know what you're going to see, and it makes it super compelling.
Most electric player you've covered at Central Michigan?
Oh, wow. Okay. That's a deep one. That is a deep one. I'm thinking here. Titus Davis was incredible. And unfortunately he's now passed away, but he played for Dan Enos, and his brother played at Western Michigan, a wide receiver as well. But he was just so fun to watch as a wide receiver. Thomas Rawls just bullied dudes from the line of scrimmage. Quarterbacks, I would say Cooper Rush. He was really fun to watch the way he could sling the rock. And I came right after Dan Lefevre, so I didn't get to watch him play, and I was right after Antonio Brown as well. But I think of Titus Davis and the way that he was able to impact and change a game. No doubt, he was fun. And then I would go to Kayvon Frazier as well. If you need a defensive guy, Kayvon Frazier, he played a few years in the NFL. He was one of the hardest hitting safeties that I had ever seen. He was fast, got downhill, but if you caught that ball right in front of him, you were going to pay the price.
Yeah, I'll say this, that like from my perspective at San Jose State, Nick Nash was awesome to watch last year. All the records that he shattered, former quarterback turned into a receiver. Now he's trying to fight for a job for the Falcons right now in the preseason. But 2 years ago, what Kyrie Robinson did in the backfield for us out here in San Jose, he had a single season touchdown record. I look at a guy like Cade Hall and Junior Fehoko on the defensive line, a part of that 2020 Mountain West Championship season. So, there's a whole lot of guys. That's the beauty of this sport. There's a whole lot of guys that don't go pro, but man, that are just so decorated within the program that they played at. And that's what makes the game so great, because they'll always be remembered, and the fan base definitely doesn't forget about the performance that they put on the field. Adam, thank you so much for joining us today to talk, just Central Michigan, just the history, the season, your perspective as a broadcaster, and San Jose State versus Central Michigan. That is in 2 weeks from now, August 29th on a Friday night in San Jose. Where can people find your work? You're doing minor league baseball. You're doing Central Michigan, basketball and football. Where can people check you out?
Yeah, right now it's Lugnuts Baseball. We're streaming, so you can go to our website, lansinglugnuts.com, or you can go check out our Twitter. We drop the link in there, and we're either doing a TV broadcast or home where you can MILB the app. You can watch it there, and then we'll see for football. We got a new sponsorship this year, so we're still working out the quirks. Good thing the game's only a couple weeks away, but yeah, it's either Lugnuts right now, or then it's ESPN Plus, ESPN3, or whatever our radio network will look like here in 2025. But super pumped to get out there, Nick. I hope that it's a good game. I hope we represent ourselves well, and I know the challenge that it's going to be coming out there to San Jose State. And I know, again, those fans are going to be riled up. So we'll see what happens, but we're all excited to come out there and officially kick off the Matt Drinkall era here in 2025.
100%. And San Jose State, I mean, highly anticipated season. A lot of people out here think that they could potentially give Boise State a run for their money for a Mountain West championship this year. There's just that much buzz in San Jose. But Adam, thank you so much for coming on the pod and taking some time out of your day today. Appreciate it. And we'll definitely be connecting week 1 in San Jose.
Looking forward to it, man. Thanks so much.
Thank you. That will do it for this episode of the Sports Sentiment. Once again, I am your host, Nick Urias, and be sure to subscribe wherever you get your podcasts.